Welcome to Voices from the Valley, a podcast of the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region. I'm Amy Spreeman.
And I'm Kyle Armstrong. Today we're talking about the special place in our communities that libraries have and the unique ways that they are shaping how all of our neighbors experience life in the Fox Valley.
Yes, and just the same way our demographics are changing and becoming more diverse, our libraries are changing too to ensure that their services, programs, and materials can be enjoyed by all.
Wisconsin has 389 city and county libraries, the largest being in Milwaukee, and the smallest, well, it would probably have to be one of those free little libraries where you take a book and share a book.
And there's so many cool things about libraries that they have now. You can find just about anything at local libraries, from gardens to guinea pigs to flight simulators and even video recording studios. And someday soon, we are going to take you to experience these things in a future episode of Voices from the Valley. But today, we are going to focus on the way libraries not only reflect our communities, but also help shape them to enrich the lives of people who live here and visit here. And to do that, we are visiting with librarians and patrons across the valley.
We start with Colleen Rortvedt of the Appleton Public Library.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Colleen, why don't you introduce yourself? Let us know what you do at the Appleton Public Library.
Sure. Well, I'm Colleen Rortvedt, and I'm the library director. I've been at the library for 25 years, actually, at Appleton Public Library. I started shelving books on Sundays a long, long time ago, and I have the distinct privilege of being kind of one of the community faces for the library, which is just full of, we have about 100 amazing people that work at the library, wow. and so it's just a real treat to be a part of the organization.
We want to start by, talking about the value of libraries in our communities and how these facilities are so much more than books and videos and, brick and mortar buildings. They really serve a bigger purpose, don't they? Bringing people and ideas together and really creating those bonds that, give us all a feeling of belonging to a community.
Absolutely. I like to say that the heart of the library is people, and it's really the relationship between the library staff and the community and what they can co-create together. So every library in every community is going to be different because every community is different. And so the best libraries really figure out how to engage with the community. Everybody that walks through the door has a different need. We meet people at their point of need, and more we're engaging with other community entities to do that. We know that we have great resources on the shelf. Our book collections are legendary. When you think of libraries, you think of books.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, from an identity standpoint, we struggle with, because we get a lot of people who think that maybe that's a dated thing. But more and more, the community is one of the greatest resources. So we curate communities kind of like we curate the resources on our shelves. A library is so many things. Yeah. So when that person walks through the door, it could be to access our collections. It could be to access technology. It could be a new parent looking to find story time or get their child's first library card. It could be somebody looking to attend a program or looking to search for jobs or figure out how to fill out a resume or apply for a job today when so much more is technologically driven. It could just be because they're looking for something and they don't even know what that is. And the library might be the one place where they can walk in the door and they don't feel like a client or a patient. So we're all those things. And I think that's what people struggle with and understanding, because it's a complex organism, and that's actually our strength. It's not our weakness. It might be a marketing weakness, but it's really our strength in terms of what we do for communities.
Well, you talked about anybody can walk in and you're able to help them, serve them. What are some of those unique needs that you're finding that some populations have? You talk about, curating communities. How are you able to rather, help curate communities that maybe have been historically underserved?
So one of the things that we've had in the old library on Oneida Street, and we'll have when we reopen in Oneida Street at the new library, is we have an initiative called the Community Table. And so in the past, when you walked into the library, you might find a table for Feeding America or for Veterans Administration or Partnership Community Health or COTS. And they're staffed with their folks. We're not experts in all they do, but we can be part of No Wrong Door. And a lot of people come into the library looking for something. It's a high traffic place in general, and it's going to be the place where you're likely to find the most diverse cross-section of community, all socioeconomic levels, all backgrounds, all abilities, all skills. And so we tend to be a real high contact place for those organizations. They're not getting in people's faces and pushing, pushing their information, but they're there in this kind of kind of passive, friendly, engaging way that somebody might realize, for some reason I'm off my food share benefits. I don't know what happened, and I just haven't been able to get there to the office, to the place wherever the organization provides direct service to clean that up. And so maybe they can get help right then and there, walk out the door with whatever that issue is resolved. I think that's one of the benefits is that library it doesn't have as much of an institutional feel as a lot of other places. So that's one way that we can serve the community. We're really kind of elevating and putting forward other community organizations, but in the same way that we've done with resources as well, like same with books on the shelf. You stumble on something, it's really important, it might change your life, and hopefully, at least in the end, you learned something.
Well, and you've really removed some barriers here by providing just that direct contact with these nonprofits that maybe somebody couldn't get in their car and drive to, or for some reason maybe they couldn't call on the phone. Maybe there's a language barrier.
Right,
So,
absolutely. Yeah. It could be a language barrier. It could be stigma. It could be that every other interaction that person had that day is with somebody that's treating them like a patient or a client, and that they just want to walk in the door of a place where they're on the same terms as everybody else. So when you walk into the library, you're a patron, dated phrase as that is, and we can debate the word patron or customer or whatever you want to use, but you're a person. Sure. And you don't have to have a certain belief. You don't have to fill out a lot of information. You don't have to have a client number. You don't have to share your life story. You can be totally anonymous. Your library use is actually, your privacy is protected at the library. So I think that all of those advantages help us connect with communities that have been traditionally marginalized or have maybe felt a bit of stigma or fear. We aren't going to grill you on all of that. Sometimes when we're allowing these other organizations to engage, it's a bit of a friendlier entree to the information that they need to collect, because you're just in the library and you're probably just going to maybe pick up some magazines and read and sit in the sun and use the computer that day. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's wonderful that you're welcoming those other nonprofits to, start to connect over their services in the library in that friendly environment. What are some of the ways that the library is directly serving those communities? I think particularly of non-English language services and story times, things like that.
Sure. So our children's programs, we have a lot of different programs that are really geared towards different developmental stages or different needs. So we have sensory friendly experiences for children. The traditional library experience can be quite overwhelming. The library isn't the shush hush place of the past. It is usually pretty active and engaged, especially in the children's section. And that's what you want. I mean, if you walk into a children's section and there's not a lot of fun going on, there's something weird going on there. So from sensory, we just started ASL story time. With a grant from the Rotary Club of Appleton. We have programs for English language learners, especially in the children's programs. We're working on pre-literacy skills in the birth through 5 area. And so in those early younger programs, we're teaching read, talk, sing, write, play. And those are foundational to pre-literacy skills. And we're going to be the place where a lot of those kids are before they get to kindergarten. And so we can help them be on the same page as the rest of their peers, even if they come from a family that maybe isn't speaking English in the home. Maybe the parents have a bit of fear about not being able to read the children's book with their child. So we can help those parents understand that it's okay. You don't have to be the perfect reader, but also we can model some of those behaviors in story times and help you feel more confident in your parenting. We also engage in a program called Reach Out and Read Fox Cities. We are the coordinating organization for that, and that is supported by United Way Fox Cities. And we work with most every clinic in the area that's providing early well child visits and physician in medical settings. From right now 6 months to 5 years, but that's actually starting to also back up to birth, where in every one of your well child visits you have the Reach Out and Read methodology. So our staff coordinate to help the medical clinics have access to that program, make it easy for them to be a part of it, because there are a lot of, it isn't just a book giveaway. You have to have the physicians trained in the methodology, so they're using the book diagnostically in those visits, as well as providing the developmentally appropriate guidance for that stage. But once the clinics kind of get on board with it and become Reach Out and Read clinics, they love it. It helps improve the environment in those well child visits. So it's maybe not so much about the shot. The kids remember leaving with a book because they get to take that book home. And for some families, that is the only book they may have at home until they, at the end of 5 years, hopefully have, way more than 10 books. So that's another way that we work with a variety of communities, because we know that a lot of times there's gaps in who's showing up for access to services. When we've had bilingual programs, they are so popular. Our Hmong story times at the old library, prior to the pandemic, of course, we would have like 50, 75 people, like entire families at these programs, just huge attendance. So I think it just shows that the library is a place of trust for communities, maybe because we're not so institutional. And also it's free, it's accessible to all. Right. It's a civil right to use your library. So
and you mentioned the Hmong Library Story Hour, and that's starting up again. Yep. And I had the pleasure of going to the Kensington Drive location in Appleton to actually visit. And you're right, the parents are there too, learning. Yeah. They're seeing the different ways that people are reading these storybooks to children, and it's great. Tell me a little bit more about the Hmong community and how you've done outreach traditionally.
Sure. So for a long time, we've prioritized having collection access to have Hmong materials in our collection. I think that was some of our early work. Hmong resources, book content wasn't available in the traditional ways. And although Hmong was traditionally a spoken language and not written, and not everybody that speaks Hmong reads Hmong, it was, I think, a very important priority for us to have a collection that demonstrated that the library's for you. And way back then, actually, I was the media librarian at the time. And that was a collection that I focused on. We had some locally created shows that we had in a collection, and we accessed children's materials that were in Hmong. Some were bilingual, some were just in Hmong. We put furniture out that was advised to us by a group of Hmong elders. And it wouldn't have been the furniture we chose, so it was something that we needed this guidance at the time. So that was kind of the early days. And then we got much more, I think, sophisticated. The truth is that we needed our staff to reflect the community better. And we did receive some grants in the early days for funding a Hmong outreach coordinator. And now that is a city-funded position. That position for children, does outreach to families to really help connect with those parents, to help them, like with learning that they're their child's first teacher, what different options there are for them in pre-literacy skills and engaging with the community. So they do all of that in kind of an informal day-to-day way, but then they also develop these great programs. And so we have the early childhood programs, and then we realized that we kind of were dropping off and didn't have something for the older kids. So we developed school-age English language learners programs as well, our ELL club that has gone on for several years now. And then, in the temporary library, we've had to adapt and do things differently, but we're, I think, getting really ready to go full force once we get back home downtown.
Well, and that library is in the old Best Buy building in Appleton. Wanted to point that out. Thank you, Colleen. Let's go there now. Let's take a listen and see what's happening at the Hmong Storytime.
What if it was fun eating his favorite lunch with all his new friends?
So today we are reading a book called Back to School Tortoise, and then the second book is Do Not Invite Dinosaur to Dinner.
Have any of you guys ever invited a dinosaur to dinner? What do you think? Yeah, you have? What do you think happened?
So my name is Sia. I grew up in this area in Appleton, Wisconsin. My family is originally from Thailand, but I've been here since I was 6. And I've always loved the library because it's such a fun and safe space to be in. So I've been a library kid for as long as I can remember. I started in my position about a year ago. So I'm the Hmong Family Outreach Specialist, and my position was actually a grant-funded position by Community Foundation. And so that's how it all started. So now, fast forward many years later, it's no longer that it's a permanent position, but at the very beginning, it was a grant-based program because of Community Foundation.
It's a tiger, that's right. Yeah. So how do we say tiger in Hmong? Jaw zai.
It's a very, very special role. I have me and one of my other colleagues who specifically work with minority families in the area. And so we get to design programs that are specifically for that population. So I work with the Hmong population, and then my colleague works with the Hispanic population. So when I remember being a kid, and I remember I was maybe in like 4th or 5th grade when the library first had the Hmong collection. And that was so exciting for me, just to be able to see Hmong art in the library and to see the collection that we had. There was a lot of different DVDs. There was a lot of different books. And so as a kid, that was super exciting for me. And so now as an adult, getting to work here at the library and then offering programs specifically targeted for the Hmong community has been really important for me.
You see too, my friends, that sometimes in our stories, we don't have the Hmong words for certain animals. And so when we don't have certain words for certain animals, I will just use the English words, okay?
One of the main programs that I run is the Bilingual Storytime, and we are the only library in the area that offers Hmong Bilingual Storytime. And originally, the Storytime was developed and targeted more towards 3 to 6 year olds, so like that early preschool age. But over the years, we've kind of come to see that the community has been wanting more bilingual story time for the older school-age kiddos. And for a lot of families, it's actually a time for the kiddos to come and be exposed to the language. And so now it's kind of transitioned from offering a programs for families who do not speak English to more of a program that is for language preservation. And a lot of families, I think, have been really enjoying that, for the kiddos to come here, connect with other Hmong children, and then be able to hear a story in both English and in Hmong.
Story about Tortoise and how he is the teacher, but he gets nervous
I've been trying to get him to read Hmong, but then I think when he's here with other kids reading Hmong, he's a lot more motivated to actually learning his native language. And we try to make him speak Hmong because he's like the youngest one in the family, so he barely speaks Hmong, and like we have like this language barrier between him and my parents. So like my parents have to kind of learn English to like communicate with him, and then he has to learn like Hmong to communicate with my parents, but like he like doesn't speak Hmong. So kind of coming here has really motivated him to kind of like understand the importance of, oh, like I need to learn it so I can have like longer sentences with my parents, you know?
Okay, so before we move on to our next story, my friend.
My name is New. I have my son, Aaron, and my daughter, Jasmine, and my other son, Nolan. It's fun because my kids get to interact and learn Hmong. They honestly don't know Hmong because it's English in the house, and so...
I think one of the biggest challenge that I see from my experience is that a lot of Hmong families in the Hmong community, a lot of the times the parents think that the teacher role is just for teachers at school, when in reality, like parents are very much, can be a teacher at home, and a parent is a child's first teacher. And that's something that I'm still like working very hard on pushing forward. And I think a lot of our second generation and upcoming parents are, they're aware of that. But sometimes when we used to have the first generation parents, they're still not aware of that. And so that's something that I work really hard to push.
I've been to Appleton since 98, so it's been a while. But I now moved to Nina. My name is New. I just love that it's pretty diverse here and they make you feel welcome. I just love to learn the opportunities that we have to explore.
I think for any families, especially for newcomers, it can be a very intimidating space, especially if you don't speak the language and you don't see a lot of folks that look like you. It can be a very intimidating space. What me and my colleague do is to make sure that we take up that space for families to know that we are here for them. We specifically make programs that are targeted for them because we want to make sure that they feel welcome in this space as well, because it is for, the whole entire community.
Good morning, Mr. Tortoise. They all shouted back.
I mean, for me, I think it's such a great joy to be able to share stories with these children. Because I know, like, growing up as a child, I wasn't being read to because my family's first generation. So, like, my parents didn't speak English. And so I wasn't read to. And so, like, this is such an exciting space to be in and to share the love of stories with kiddos.
Hello, friends. Come join us. You guys missed our hello song, but that's totally okay.
Do you want to make a difference in your community, for you, for your neighbors? We can help you build a solid foundation of giving and impact. The Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region offers easy, flexible, and effective ways to give today and forever to help you strengthen your community for future generations. Find out how by visiting cffoxvalley.org.
We are back talking about all the ways our local libraries are bringing our diverse Fox Valley communities together in a way that welcomes and edifies all.
Two of those communities, Menasha and Brillion, have invested a lot of library resources to reach out to their Hispanic neighbors, to break down language barriers, and celebrate culture and tradition.
¿Quién los está mirando? ¿Un monstruo? No, es un lector.
My name is Lydia Dill, and I'm the director at the Brillion Public Library. I've been here for about 2 years now. There's so many things that I love about Brillion. I grew up in a small town around the same size, so I've always kind of had a passion for smaller communities. You really get to know each other and get to care about the people that you're serving, which is one of the things I love about Brillion. Brillion's definitely got a fairly decent-sized Hispanic community for the size of Brillion itself. We actually have a newer Mexican grocery store that just came in, so we're trying to breach a lot of those gaps that have grown in our community to welcome them and show them what Brillion has for them to utilize. We have been applying for grants to help with funding to do those programs, and one of the ones that we've recently received was from the Brillion Area Community Endowment Fund within the Brillion Area Family of Funds, and that's going to allow us to do a Day of the Dead Take and Make that we are going to offer this year. And that will include supplies to make a sugar skull craft. And then it will also include an educational book for every family to take home and keep.
A decir, ja, 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 ¿Quieres hacerlo ahora?
The misconception is that Day of the Dead is like Mexico's Halloween. That's not true. It's a lot more about remembering those that you have lost in your life and honoring those loved ones, but it's more of a celebration than a mourning. So we're really looking forward to bringing some of that party almost to Brillion. And so these kits will include a lot of educational material as well as the fun crafts. Each family will get to take home the book that has activities and recipes and different ways that they can celebrate as well. In 2022, we also received a grant, and we used that to purchase 67 new materials for the library itself. Those ranged from youth to adult, from nonfiction to fiction, all kinds of materials for all kinds of age groups. We are also working with the Brillion Nature Center to provide a bilingual trail tales. So what that is we break up the story and it goes along this nature walk. So as you're walking the path, you get to read the stories. And the fun thing about this round of Trail Tales is that both books being featured are bilingual. So they're English and Spanish. I've actually recently learned that the word library looks like a Spanish word that means bookstore. So it can kind of be a little confusing. I think that community doesn't necessarily realize that we're free for almost anything that we provide and that we're here and we're open and we want to help. So we've been slowly working. It's been a process, but we're hoping that each step that we take will help us reach that Spanish-speaking community a little better.
Hola, ¿puedes leernos otra vez, por favor? Espero que eso funcionó. Yo también.
Victor, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, we want to start off by talking about your position a little bit at the Menasha Public Library. You were hired 3 years ago now, and as the Latino Outreach Specialist, thanks to a grant from within the Community Foundation. Tell us a little bit about that and how you came here.
Sure. Thank you for welcoming me. So I did start at the Menasha Public Library, which technically is the Elijah D. Smith Public Library in Menasha, but it's also known as the Menasha Public Library. Yes. I started off as a Latino outreach specialist with the goal of increasing third grade reading level skills. Obviously, that is not a one-person job. It is a mammoth of a goal, but the reading scores in the Menasha School District were a little bit below level around the Fox City. So the city of Menasha, the public library, the community foundation all agreed that there was room for a person to do some outreach in the Latino community because the library as an institution in Latin America is not the same as it is in the United States. It is mostly in the big cities, and it is mostly for university students. So it is not the equivalent of what it is in the United States, where for generations, children have enjoyed story times and books and all types of things that are not well known in the Latino community. So part of that goal was to introduce the concept of the American library to Latinos here in the Fox Valley, specifically in Menasha.
That is interesting. And let's go back to what you said about your purpose here to increase the reading level at third grade. That's a very specific purpose. Tell us a little bit about the research and why third grade. Why was that targeted?
Sure. So I'm not a teacher, but I do have a background in social science, and we do know that those first few years of education are going to determine the rest of your life, basically. Because if you can't read by third grade, you're just going to kind of go along through junior high, through high school, not ever catching up, not ever being successful, and throughout your life. So I think that we know that being at reading level or above reading level from kindergarten to third grade is very important for the rest of our lives. Another concept within the Latino community is that we just send our kids to school and they'll get educated and that's it. Yeah. Where we know that the first educators are the parents. Yeah. So we need that support within the home, at school, from our teachers, from the library, but parents are the number one pushers, encouragers for their own children.
What a great opportunity that you have to actually work with parents too, to help them in their roles and realize that what the library has to offer.
Yeah, and that's been my main challenge, is getting people through the door and finding those people to speak to. So I don't have access to everybody's address and know where every Latino lives, and there isn't a place where we all hang out. So, it's been a challenge to get the word out, but I visit the schools. I visit the Banta Bilingual School to make my face known and spread the word and invite parents and children to the school. The children know about it, but they don't drive, and they, so they have to ask their parents for permission.
Sure.
But it's a learning process. It's a long-term as opposed to short-term challenge. So we're in it to win it. We're here to educate parents, to encourage them, to welcome them. And we do that through our programming. So we offer Spanish language programming. I offer English classes for the parents, tutoring for the children. We have programming that is culturally relevant. I came up with this formula a year ago during the COVID crisis to see what worked, what didn't work. And I came to the conclusion that the most important thing is that it has to be culturally relevant, because something like a story time is very relevant to Americans, but for my culture, it's not a thing. So it's not relevant to them. So if you promote it, you're not going to get the same response as if you celebrate Day of the Child, which is not well known in the United States, but it is in Latin America. So I would get maybe 1 or 2 families to our story times. But when I did a Day of the Child event, I would get almost 200 people. So that's where that light bulb went off, and I said, "Oh, okay." So I'm not from Mexico. I'm from Los Angeles, but I still understand the culture. I'm around it. I've been around it, so I know the big holidays and the holidays. So we're going with that, and it's brought positive results, focusing on what is relevant to the Latino culture. So Day of the Child, Day of the Dead. We just celebrated Latin American independence on September 16th. So this was a great way to, bring all Latinos, not just the biggest ethnic group, which is made up of my ethnicity, the Mexican group, but also South Americans, Latin Americans. We basically all fought in the 18th century against Spain at the same time. So it doesn't matter the exact day of independence, but the fact that we fought together. It's kind of making the whole group feel welcomed, that it is accessible to them, that we have programming in their language, and basically personnel that looks like them and speaks their language.
That's so important. I know you've mentioned the programs. What about the resources that people will find when they come into the library in Menasha? What will they find that will help them bridge some of those gaps?
Sure. So specifically for Latinos, you have at least 2 personnel who speak the language. So they're Latin Americans, Spanish speakers are able to come to the Menasha Public Library. We have Ana Acosta in the reference department, and myself, Victor Flores, in the children's department. Now, our library will be going through some changes in the near future. So there may be some shifts, but the personnel will be there. Okay. As far as programming and resources, so those 2 people can speak directly to the Spanish-speaking community in their language. We have English classes. We have programming for children. A lot of our services will actually be referrals. So, if you're looking for housing, we would refer you to Pillars. Depending on what needs the patrons would have, we would basically give referrals to for sister organizations or partners in the community. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, Victor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We've been talking about how libraries are serving diverse communities of people in the Fox Valley. Over in Neenah, we had a chance to visit the Valley VNA Senior Care Facility, where the Neenah Library is bringing all of its colorful stories and experiences to seniors.
Many are in memory care programs, but when the music starts and the stories unfold, their eyes begin to light up with joy. Let's listen in.
Today we are doing the intergenerational story time at Valley VNA Senior Care, and it's in partnership with the Neenah Public Library. We've actually been doing this since March of 2023. My name is Tracy Nicolai. I work at Valley VNA Senior Care, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Development. Valley VNA Senior Care is actually a nonprofit. So we do, help the seniors, but also help our community. So that's why we do programs like Intergenerational Storytime to reach the community and really be a part of where we work and live.
All right. Beep, beep. Sheep said, bah. Cow said, moo. Oink, said a piggy. Beep, said blue. Beep, beep. Ma, said a goat.
They're doing singing and they have books. They also bring scarves and those lovely colorful parachutes. And so we have our residents and members from the community coming in as well. And they're actually doing their regular story time with all ages. So we have, newborn babies all the way up to our oldest residents coming in here. So it's really great seeing the smiles on everybody's faces and the interaction between the different generations and kind of breaking down all those barriers that, sometimes come out when you're out in the community. So here it's just all ages playing together and reading the stories, and everybody really enjoys that all together.
Little blue truck came down.
Even though the stories are geared towards children, all ages can really enjoy that because there's so much collaboration and fun, and just seeing the kids come and dance and play, and then you see the smiles on the older generation being there as well is just so amazing to see.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream.
Oh, this was fun. We had as much fun as the kids did.
Yeah, with children like this is great.
John and Nancy grew up in Neenah. They've lived at Valley VNA since 2017 and almost never miss a story hour.
And of course, what makes it great is that girl that's doing it. She's good with the children, and that's wonderful. But it's a wonderful place to be.
Everybody just gets so joy out of it because sometimes we're reading our favorite books from the past that you don't just pick up and read, but it really kind of unlocks that memory from the past. People with Alzheimer's and dementia, they still remember music and songs from their past. So a lot of times with the story times, they do kind of sing along with the books or have rhymes and nursery rhymes that you remember from a childhood. So that really brings everybody together, and both the adults and the children really enjoy that.
Skinnamarink-a-dinky-dink, skinnamarink-a-doo, I love you.
We're wrapping up this episode. We hope we've inspired you to check out your local libraries and support them if you can. You can learn about all the resources we talked about today in our show notes by going to cffoxvalley.org/podcasts. There, you can subscribe and get all of our episodes delivered to you wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Voices from the Valley, a podcast of the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region.